sorry. I only play for sport. Not without the heart of the operation. No!
You probably have an unsightly face, judging by your past experiments.
Listen to this gibberish. Your perception of good timing is...
Don't you think you've seen enough?
Hello all you beautiful people and welcome back to the Gamessnia show, where I always look at games from the past, present, or maybe even sometimes the future and decide what the judgment is going to be. But guys, if you look at your phone, your laptop, or whatever type of device you have on your calendar, you will see that we are officially in 2021. Yes, we have passed 2020. We got through it barely, but we still got through regardless. And 2021 is a new year, it's a new dawn, and we're finally on that new year, and we're finally getting past this whole COVID in 2020. And I have a feeling that this year, 2021, is going to be one of the best years possible.
We have decided to introduce from midnight tonight for the duration of January a legal requirement to stay at home except for essential purposes. This is similar to the lockdown of March last year.
Oh. Well, back into the closet under the stairs I go. I'll see you guys in the next Gamessnia show episode in 2022. See you guys later. But yeah, all jokes aside, 2020 has been an absolute terrible and depressing year for everyone across the world. And I fully understand why people believe that this has been the worst year for them. I don't think that myself, but I do understand why people think that. Because a lot of people are going into 2021 with the idea that there wasn't going to be any lockdowns, the whole vaccine was going to kick in and we would be cured soon and this whole thing would be gone. And that we wouldn't be having all these problems of social distancing. But in 2020, in December or so, Nicola Sturgeon announced that from Boxing Day, there would be a full-wide lockdown across Scotland. And the same happened with England as well, with Boris Johnson. And people's hopes for 2021 just vanished like that. And I fully understand that. And I'm probably sick of this too as well. I wanted to bring a very good vibe to the first episode of the Gamessnia show for 2021. And I was originally going to go for a bad game with negative vibes and all that. But really, I didn't want to do that because it just didn't feel right, the situation we're in right now. So, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to look up something good. And I was looking for a while. And you know what? There's only one place to go for decency. Some place instantly I know is going to have a good effect on this channel for the start of 2021. And where else can we go for decency than none other than the franchise known as Tomb Raider?
Oh fuck yeah, Tomb Raider. She ain't just a video game character, but instead a gaming legend. There is no one in the world that hasn't heard of good old Lara. First making her debut in 1996, the character instantly became a hit, resulting in a legacy being built behind Lara Croft with game after game, and even having a recent reboot which was critically acclaimed by a lot of critics. And the majority of all these games were all met with love and positive attention. And yes, while there hasn't been a new Lara Croft game in 3 years, still in the year 2021, Tomb Raider is still looked at and still remembered as one of the most influential and greatest characters in video game history. But why has Tomb Raider become such a popular video game character and overall sensation throughout the years? I couldn't tell you honestly, as there are many reasons why this character has skyrocketed through the years, but one of the main reasons I could tell you is that she is looked at as a brilliant constructed character and has proved to everyone over the years that females, like men, can be ultra badasses, and when it mattered, could be more badass than the most men characters in video games. Something we haven't seen since the Metroid series of badass female lead Samus. I mean, there may be another reason for why she's so popular, but I can't seem to put my finger on it. Regardless of the reasons, her success is undeniable. Hell, even getting to the point of making the front cover of so many magazines, starring in TV commercials, and even having her own major line of merchandise, including action figures and t-shirts, and even having her own movies, let alone 2 of them. That's how much of an impact Lara Croft has made over the years, both in the gaming community and in the real life community, and has made so much attention over the years, and shows you how widely loved she is by the millions of fans over the years since 1996.
But you know, I was thinking, what could I do a Tomb Raider game wise for this Games Show episode? I mean, I've already done Rise of the Tomb Raider and I already like that, but what else could I do? I looked around and I found one particular Tomb Raider game that's not that talked about much, and that's Tomb Raider Legend.
Tomb Raider Legend was actually the very first Tomb Raider game not developed by Core Design since 1986 due to them being pulled out thanks to the disaster known as Angel of Darkness, and so the Tomb Raider name would be put in the hands of Crystal Dynamics. This all realistically would mean a hard reboot for the Tomb Raider franchise in a game that reimagined Lara's story in a very different way and developing a character and legend even further by giving her an origin story which was something we hadn't seen before until they milked it later in the franchise, of course. So going into this, there's a lot of new and interesting elements that could make this game a major hit and stand out all across the other games overall. But the true question that still deeply lies inside the tombs is one thing. Is Tomb Raider Legend worthy of its title, and could it revitalize the legacy of the Tomb Raider? Well, let's venture into the Tomb of Mysteries and let's see what we got with Tomb Raider I Am Legend. We start off with a cutscene which, like I said earlier, takes place in telling us about the origins of Lara.
Just because no one's ever caught one doesn't mean they're not real.
That is very true, but perhaps they don't wish to be found. I've heard they're rather fierce.
Yeti only look fierce. They probably don't like being so cold all the time. I shouldn't like it either.
You never have to be cold, my Lara, if you don't want to be.
Hold up! Okay, look, Amelia, I know you're trying to be a good mother towards Lara and trying to be a good role model for when she grows older, but what you just said, that's like saying this.
Bears only look fierce. They probably don't like being extinct all the time. I certainly wouldn't. You never have to be extinct, my Lara, if you don't want to be.
Yeah, you see why it doesn't quite work?
Henry, what's happened?
Lead Croft.
Mayday, mayday. This is Bravo Tango 229er. We lost our one side engine. Trying to get cross feeds open.
Are we going to crash?
Starboard engine non-responsive.
Not unless it's absolutely necessary.
Amelia, stop sugarcoating this. She knows she's going to crash, so just tell her the truth.
I don't want to close my eyes.
So yeah, starting off a game like that is pretty fucking ballsy. I mean, starting off with a game with out of nowhere dark intro is always ballsy and always leaves a bit of mysteriousness around it, but that's something I really like to see in a Tomb Raider game and them to explore. But fast forward to the present day in the vast and gorgeous waterfalls of Bolivia where Lara Croft has adventured to for an amazing first level that is just breathtaking to look at. This level honestly is a really great start to the game, and it's already better than every single level of the last Tomb Raider game we got, but that's not really saying much, but it's something worth noting because that was the last Tomb Raider game we got and it sucked. I don't need to go on about that. But anyway, a little synopsis. Lara Croft travels to Bolivia after getting a tip from one of her friends about a stone Diaz hidden somewhere in the ruins of a city called Tiwanaku, I think. And Lara thinks the stone is connected to her mother's disappearance after she pulled an ancient sword near where the crash site of the plane was in the beginning of the game, which we just seen obviously. But like I said, this was a great opening level, nothing too special, but it's a jungle level on a Tomb Raider game. You can't go wrong, man. There wasn't a lot of stuff I put in my notes for talking about in this review in the jungle levels, apart from the stuff with Lara, especially with the enemies and Zip and Alistair, who are kind of like her crew and help her through the entire adventure. The conversation all three of them had together in this entire game all feel very real and grounded and make for a very lovable dynamic to keep you going throughout the entire game. Speaking of Lara, she's been changed in this game. She's no longer like her original character who was a noble woman turned adventurer, who was a strong, self-assured, tough as nails character who always saw the bright side of all things and was someone you could mess with, but Lara would always get the best of any situation given because she was that calm and collected person. Legend is kind of a different story, however, as they made a more sarcastic, hardened and thick-skinned Lara who feels like a more real take of the character, and even though she is all those things, she still shows compassion towards her allies when she can, but doesn't give a shit about her enemies, and has a really superb change to see for this character. I fucking love it because it actually makes for a more real version of this Tomb Raider, and it still has got hints of the old character in there, but it's adding a more real take on it and a more realistic side, and I fucking love it. I mean, yeah, it's different, but it is a reboot after all, and if there is one character design I've never had a problem with, it's Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider instantly comes to mind for me. Yes, I do prefer the classic Lara in terms of character and in terms of presence, but what I prefer over in Legend is the voice actress. Because right, hear me out when I say this, because I know it's going to come across as a bit controversial, and some people may argue with me on this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Keely Hawes, who voices Lara Croft in Tomb Raider Legend, may just be the best voice actress we have ever gotten for Lara Croft. And I know that is a far stretch and it is saying a lot, but I really am not convinced otherwise that anybody can outdo her performance. The way she delivers her lines, the emotions that you can sense her portraying, and I feel like I'm watching Lara Croft. And you know when you hear voices in video games and you hear somebody's voice, think, yes, that is the perfect voice for somebody. Like David Hayter from Metal Gear Solid, or James C. Barnes for when he played Frank Woods in Call of Duty. That is the same with Keely Hawes in Tomb Raider Legend. Angelina Jolie may be the only movie Tomb Raider that I want to know because she's so fucking good, but Keely Hawes is my video game Tomb Raider. Even Lara's moveset in the game is a tiny bit more varied and shows how flexible she really can be by adding rolls, handstands, flips, and even her signature swan dive move into the game, instead of just cutscenes like we saw before in the previous games. A big improvement over the other games as well is the improved mobility of Lara's movements and how she runs and jumps, and it all seems much more natural than ever before. And the gameplay is good old-fashioned Tomb Raider style with a bit more flair added to it to make it a bit more improved than the previous entries. You could also say this game was what Angel of Darkness should have been in the first place, mainly because of how much it actually works this time round, but Legend is something, however, that actually delivers something new to the franchise for everyone, while also sprinkling a bit of the old classic Tomb Raider charm everyone loves, making it a more deserving game to play than the previous entry. So all in all, in the end, we have interesting supporting characters, solid gameplay, new kick-ass Lara character, different but welcoming Lara character model. But the question is this leading to a promising start to Tomb Raider Legend? Well, let's quickly calculate this actually. We got the Tomb Raider Legend character, yeah, the model is pretty good, and plus the promising gameplay and the setup for the plot. Aha!
You know, I've just realised this in my mind right now. No matter how bad or good a Tomb Raider game can be, the one thing that they've never fucked up in games like this is Tomb Raider's character, Lara's character overall. It's never been done poorly. There's never been any decisions in any games where you think that's not what Lara Croft or Tomb Raider is, that's not what she is. Even in the new reboot, you think, yeah, that's still Lara Croft. She's not fully like Tomb Raider, she's becoming the Tomb Raider, but she's still Lara Croft. And that's very, very great that they've done that. And they know the type of character Lara should be symbolising, and I really admire that. But you know what also impresses me? The way every single developer since the start has managed to nail Lara Croft's features in every single game, and I truly respect that, and I truly admire that, because they straight up know what made Lara Croft skyrocket into the video games industry.
It's something that core games and idols should be commended for, and it's something that should be adored for, but yet again, should be a thing to worry about, as the more you ponder about it, the more you start to wonder how high the jerking off activity in the office is raised when developing the bosoms of Miss Croft.
Holy shit, I just implanted the mental image of 40-year-olds trying to jerk off to a fictional character such as Tomb Raider. What the actual fuck is wrong with me?
We can then fast forward to the end of stage 1, as there's not a lot to comment on, as Lara eventually finds the stone Diaz near the end that her friend told her about, but we are last of the party as a group of mercenaries has surrounded the stone Diaz, led by their evil leader, Spider-Man.
What's important is what it does. Do you know? If this were a movie, someone would spring a trap right about now! Alright, Chuckles, you're gonna tell me everything you know.
And we eventually find our way out of Bolivia with another lead to the deserted town of Peru, and that's where I started to really notice the variety of the level design. The set pieces of each level in this game are all promising, and fresh to see. All levels feel different in their own way and don't feel like a rehash of any of the other levels presented in this game. My personal favourite is the level in Japan with the Yakuza roaming around, where you're put in an environment of scaling up rooftops and seeing the gorgeous sky at night time. It's beautiful, and this is what I play Tomb Raider for. Not the gameplay or the puzzles, even though that is a good thing in Tomb Raider, but the environments. That is a strong point for Legend, I have to add. Every single one of its environments are just a beauty to look at a lot of the times. But yeah, like I said earlier, puzzles. Where would Tomb Raider be without puzzles? While I personally prefer the action side of all things with Tomb Raider, puzzles have been an integral part of Tomb Raider since its inception. While I will agree there's not a lot of puzzles to be solved in this game, which can be seen as a bit of a gripe, the ones you have to solve are pretty well thought of. I actually really struggled with the first one actually, and actually kept me on my toes, and I had to think a bit to solve it, and when I eventually did solve it, I was rewarded with the fact that I actually beat it. So well done Tomb Raider, you actually got me thinking on my feet there. I still like the puzzles in this game, and it's still welcoming to see a few here and there, and let's be honest here, free puzzles are better than having no puzzles whatsoever, so I'll take it regardless. So I make my way, gun my way through the streets of Peru, and I find a motorbike at the very end of the course. Chase sequence? Chase sequence. A very well done chase sequence, I might add. I like this. Really, I do. This actually spiced the game up for me. This level does not fuck around, I won't lie. I started the action within a minute and added a lot of enemies to deal with firsthand, and just when it seemed it was getting repetitive, I get a motorbike sequence at the end of it all to give me something new for this level. Great stuff actually. The handling is great and not too much of a mess, and the course isn't too long, which makes it a thrilling and enjoyable section that really was exciting to play and helped sway away from the standard gameplay of shooting down enemies that we'll be seeing for the duration of the game. And yeah, since we're here, I'm going to put it out here, I'm not going to talk about every single level as I go through this game, as I only want to talk about one level specifically because of how cool it is. Let's just skip to that instead.
Oh, but Mr. Gamessnia, you forgot to talk about one thing listed in your notes over here. The quick time events, of course.
Oh, yeah, Legend has quick time events, and you know what? They're fine. Yeah, they're fine. Nothing else. Anyway, like I was saying, Japan. Look, I love all the levels in this game, I really do, but seriously, there's a reason why I use Japan as the example for the beautiful environment and why it's my favourite level. It's seriously one of my favourite levels in video games. The view is gorgeous, the layout makes sense, and doesn't feel like it's trying so hard to be a level for a video game and feels like it's a real setting you're in. It's got the good mix of platforming and action, and lastly of course, you're fighting Yakuza in Japan. Could you get any cooler? I feel a little mention of Kazakhstan is worth noting at this point, as it's Lara in the snow, and that's a really cool setting, but the real reason I bring this shit up is because of what lies ahead. So you guys remember when I said this not too long ago about the bike sequence in Peru? The handling is great and not too much of a mess, and the course isn't too long, which makes it a thrilling and enjoyable section that really was exciting to play. Well, guess what? I don't like this. So yeah, I know I said I liked the controls and how cool the last bike section was, because truth be told, I did, and I had zero issues with it overall, and enjoyed it quite a lot. But for some reason, the second time round, it was quite frankly the most frustrating and most unenjoyable part of the game, mainly due to how terrible the steering and handling was. I was having trouble with controlling the bike on its own, but the fact you also have to kill enemies as well was so much harder than you think, and honestly made me fucking rage inside. What the actual fuck happened here? How did the first time in Peru go so smoothly to then me fucking dying all the time and taking me nearly 45 minutes to finish this section? Oh, and for some reason it decided to fucking lag every time I went off this ramp, so that's something to add on there. Since we're on the roll of angry topics here, and since I'm in that negative mood right now, I'll just show you the loading screens in Tomb Raider Legend. "18 seconds.
Are you insane?
Now that you have seen how long those loading screens truly were, imagine dying like every 5 minutes because of platforming and then loading those load screens every single time you die. Imagine that. Yeah, it's pretty fucking annoying if you ask me. Loading screens are good and all, but it just got on my last nerves trying to get through it all. But regardless of all that, the game is just a pure inspirational way of bringing Tomb Raider back into the light of day. There is a lot of good stuff in the 13 hours I spent, but the best bit about that journey is probably the ending to Tomb Raider Legend. Because you know, I've been playing these games since 1998 and I've never actually experienced an ending like what Legend gives you. Maybe except Tomb Raider 2, but I feel like that's more charming and funny and still does stick to the Tomb Raider character, and that's mainly because Lara Croft has always been a calm and collected person, and even in this game she is very calm and collected, but all of that gets thrown out of the fucking window in this last scene because Lara Croft displays her full fury and vengeance towards everyone in the room and absolutely destroys everyone. But you know what, it's best that I just show you the absolute carnage Lara displays in this final scene.
Kill her. Grace!
All these years I blamed myself, and it was you! You killed her!
Killed her? She's not dead! She went where I was supposed to go, where you could have gone!
Makes sense right this second, or I swear I'll execute you where you stand!
I told you to pull out the sword. I told you!
Where is my mother?
Avalon! It's not a myth. Don't you get it? You'll never understand. I'm wasting my breath.
Fatality.
And with that final cutscene, ladies and gentlemen, I have nothing else to add and I'm fully scared of Lara Croft, so good day.
But yeah, Legend just does it so well in this game. Like, it's honestly a very good starter for anyone getting the Tomb Raider games. And anybody out there that's watching this video thinking to themselves, I've never played a Tomb Raider game before, start with Legend. It's a really good starter. Hell, it was my first Tomb Raider game. I never actually properly got into the game, but I played a good couple hours of it and I thought, yeah, it's pretty good. But back then I didn't know much about it. But even now, today, I think, yeah, it's pretty good actually. It's well played, the voice acting is very fucking superb, the characters are really done well, even though the villain's a bit weak in my opinion, but still, the boss fights are really good for a Tomb Raider game especially. It's just overall a really great Tomb Raider game. I don't know why people don't talk about this as much, probably it's because there's much better Tomb Raider games out there, and trust me, Anniversary is a better one to play, but Legend is a really fucking good star. I wouldn't discredit it in any way. Don't know why it's not talked about, probably it's just because there are other games out there that are just so much better, and I completely agree on that. Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider games are so much better than Legend in my opinion, but Legend should not be dismissed at all because it is still a very strong entry in the Tomb Raider franchise and should definitely be considered to be one of the best Tomb Raider games out there. Definitely not the best, but I think it should be at least considered to be in the top ranking Tomb Raider games. But yeah, that's really all I have to say for that, to be honest, and that's pretty much where I can conclude things right here. Tomb Raider, fucking great franchise. Tomb Raider Legend, really fucking awesome game, to be honest, and just does deserve to be played and picked up and experienced for everything it is, including the backstory of Lara is an amazing part of the game, in my opinion, the strongest bit, that and the conversations with the two characters, Zip and Alistair. And really, apart from that, there's not really much I can really add on to that or say, because I've pretty much said all my stuff I need to say with this. I will all see you in the very next Gamessnia show episode. Until then, guys, Gamessnia signing off.